When most people think of ADHD, they picture that hyperactive kid bouncing off the walls, talking nonstop, running around the classroom. But there's the thing, not every ADHD looks like that. An ADHD symptom can show very, very differently. And actually, there are 3 different presentations of ADHD. And the one that I want to focus on today is the inattentive presentation, because that's usually the presentation that's easily missed, where people often don't get a diagnosis. So if you ever wondered, why am I so forgetful? Why can't I just get started on things? Why do I always feel so scatterbrained even though I'm trying to do my best? This video is for you. Hello everyone, I'm Dr. Yanina, cognitive psychologist and ADHD coach, and on this channel I help you to understand the ADHD brain and share strategies to make life a little bit easier. And today we're going to talk all about ADHD and the inattentive presentation and what it looks like and why it is so often overlooked and some of the ways you can support yourself if this sounds familiar. First, let's clear up the confusion. So there are 3 different presentations of ADHD. First one is the hyperactive impulsive presentation, which is kind of the classic stereotype most people think of. Then there is the combined presentation, which is a mix of inattentive and hyperactive symptoms, and that's actually the most common ADHD presentation. And then lastly, there's the inattentive presentation. And if you have the inattentive presentation, your symptoms don't really come across as hyper or disruptive. Instead, your challenges show up when it comes to focusing, organizing, and follow through. So what does it actually look like when you have the inattentive presentation? So here are some of the most common signs of inattentive ADHD in adults. So it might look like you're struggling to start or finish certain tasks, and even the ones you really care about. You might notice that you're constantly misplacing everything, your phone, your keys, your wallet, everything that's possible to misplace. You probably misplace. You might notice that you're constantly forgetting about appointments or deadlines, even when you write them down. You might notice that you're zoning out in conversations or meetings. You might be listening to every other conversation that's happening in that restaurant instead of listening to the person in front of you. And then you probably feel guilty about it later. You might live in a state of, I call organized chaos. Like you have piles of notes, lists, tabs that feel impossible to keep up with. And from the outside, people might think you're careless, lazy, or just bad at adulting. But what's actually happening is that your brain is processing attention and executive functioning skills way differently. Now here's the frustrating part. Inattentive ADHD often gets overlooked, especially in girls and women. Why? Because it doesn't look disruptive, right? A kid who's quietly daydreaming at the back of the class is way less likely to get flagged than the kid that is running around the classroom. And as adults, many people with inattentive ADHD are misdiagnosed with maybe like anxiety, depression, or they're told they're just scatterbrained, and some even grow up internalizing these beliefs that they're lazy or that they're not motivated enough. But that couldn't be further from the truth, and it's not a character flaw. It's how your brain is wired. And please, please, please remember that, because that's so important. So what the inattentive ADHD presentation could look like from day to day is that you might make a super long to-do list, but somehow end the day with nothing crossed off. You walk into a room and you instantly forget why you were there. Your email inbox is overflowing even though you want to answer, but you are just avoiding it because it feels way too overwhelming to tackle all these emails. And maybe at work, you know you're super smart, but the deadlines just keep slipping through the cracks and you keep missing things. You might forget about certain deadlines, certain meetings, and so on. And if you were able to relate to any of these things that I just listed, these are definitely not signs of failure. These are signs of inattentive ADHD. So what do you do about it? While every brain is of course very different, here are a few things that can help you if you were able to relate to some of these inattentive ADHD symptoms. So firstly, you can try and use external systems. So you can rely on visual planners, task boards, or apps that help you to see your task laid out clearly, because we often struggle with working memory, so remembering things like meetings, names, where we put our keys. So it's really important to have visual reminders in any form that works for you. Like I said, visual planners, whiteboards, sticky notes, papers, like whatever works for you. Try and externalize these systems. Another helpful tool is breaking things down. So instead of writing down, create the presentation, break it down. Think about like, what are all these small steps that I need to take for the presentation to happen. So it could be writing an outline, making the design, picking the color. It could be doing the first draft and then doing a revised version and just going from there, because oftentimes we feel so overwhelmed by this huge mountain that we have to climb because that task just seems so big. And when you break it down, it often makes it so easier, firstly, to see the progress that you're taking, and also makes it less overwhelming because you know, right now I'm just going to focus on the first part and I don't have to worry about the whole task right now. Another super helpful tool are timers. Timers are your friend, and for anyone who has ever worked with me, maybe even just talked to me, you know I love my time timers. I love these visual timers. Like I said, visual tools are super helpful. Timers are super helpful. So having something combined like this visual timer is beyond helpful, because with these visual timers, you can visualize your time and you can set a time for 5 or 10 minutes and tell yourself, I will just try and get started on that task or work on the task for 10 minutes, and then I can see how I'm feeling after. And usually once we get started, it's so much easier to continue. Or you can also set a time that you will work for 1 hour, and then after that you will take a break or move on to the next task. And just because you're visualizing your time, again, it makes it so much easier to actually realize that time is passing. Body doubling is another super helpful tool where you work alongside someone else, even virtually, and it's just like having another person present that can help you stay on track. And that's such a great way of creating accountability for yourself. And that's also something that I always do in my group coachings, and everyone absolutely loves when they try out body doubling for the first time, because even though you're not actively helping each other or doing the work, it's just amazing having other people around you who are also working, because that energy often reflects on you, and that makes it so much easier to actually do the work and focus on the work that you intended to do for that hour or however long that body doubling session is. Another super important thing is self-compassion, because remember, forgetting or struggling with organization doesn't make you lazy. It means that your brain has different needs and works differently. And of course, if you think you might have ADHD, talk to a professional who can help you to get clarity, to get an assessment, and then the support you deserve. So here's the quick takeaway from today's video. ADHD inattentive presentation is definitely real. It's often unfortunately missed, and it often explains so much more than just being distracted. If you've ever been hard on yourself for forgetting something, or for struggling with focus and attention, or never really feeling organized enough, please know it's not a moral failure. And the good news is, once you know how your brain actually works, you can create systems that actually support you and your ADHD brain instead of constantly fighting against it. If you found this video helpful, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear this today. And tell me in the comments down below, does this sound like your experience with ADHD? Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all next week in the next video. Bye!